Welcome back. All right, news of the day video for all you fine people on the internet for your Friday, November the 15th. Starting at the top of the board with Matt Zuccarello. Zuccarello last night took a puck to the groin region, is what happened. And he is now thought to be out for 3 to 4 weeks. It's listed as a lower body injury, but yeah, it looked really painful. And he had to have surgery last night. So we'll leave it at that. Hopefully Zuccarello's back in the lineup as soon as he's able to be, but yeah, it didn't look great. And at any rate, we'll see how things go for Kaprizov without Zuccarello, because of course Zuccarello feeding Kaprizov pucks and their chemistry together is fantastic. So we'll see how things go for Minnesota in the interim. Eriksson Ek and Brodin are both seen as day-to-day. They could play tomorrow. That's the reporting from Michael Russo on that situation. So yeah, for the Minnesota Wild, the injury bug has started to show up, and how they play through this. It'll be interesting to see if they can get those wins going and everything while they're shorthanded on players. In the event that maybe Eriksson Ek and Brodin don't play in the next one, but we shall see. Vegas re-signs McNabb. McNabb, of course, one of the original misfits from that first season. He signs a 3-year extension with the team. The cap hit $2.85 million. So pretty good cap hit for Braden McNabb, and at $2.85 million. If he's playing on the third pairing, that's fine. That seems to be the going rate now for defensemen at the NHL level. And so, yeah, he's staying in Vegas, not going anywhere for at least 3 more years after this one. Darren Drager reporting that trade talks are picking up coming out of the GM meetings. I didn't hear anything out of the GM meetings that ended up going on the board, so I really do think at times that for the reporters of the NHL, they're just looking for something. And again, and I've talked about this with a lot of people, and I haven't had anybody argue with me on this. We really haven't seen much in the way of like big movement. We haven't seen much in the way of like a really big earth-shattering moment at the NHL level in a while. And there's sort of a sameness that goes on with this. So that's why I've been trying to do other videos lately to try to dress things up a little bit, because like, yeah, it just feels like there's definitely a sameness going on here. And when I see trade talks picking up, I'm going, but are they? Because again, a lot of the time we don't see like big trades happen until right before the trade deadline. About a month before the trade deadline, we start seeing those moves take place. Sun's really bright today, isn't it? Well, that's fine. But it's bright. It's not warm out, but it's bright out. So that's the trade-off in November. If it's bright outside, it's also cold. Anyways, so yeah, let me know your thoughts on which teams you think are going to be in on it. Because again, it's the usual suspects. People talk about Montreal and how they're not making any earth-shattering moves. They don't want to, jeopardize the rebuild they got going on. Buffalo's looking at picking somebody up. They don't want to trade any of their young assets. Nashville, in the event that they decide to try to fix what's wrong with the team, they do have some draft capital to do it. But I don't think they want to jeopardize things in case they need to rebuild as well. So it just feels like everything's kind of staying steady, and we'll see if that changes anytime soon. We haven't even seen a coach get fired yet. It's been a very quiet season thus far. Austin Matthews will not play tomorrow against the Oilers. I think it's interesting that they're not really telling us much with Matthews other than he won't be playing the next game. And this has been going on for a while. This is going to be his 6th game that he's missed. So that tells me it's been a 2-week injury, and the optimism is he'll be back on the ice next week and start, getting ready for a return. So that tells me he's probably at least a week out. And for the Toronto Maple Leafs, they've had issues with scoring here and there, but the reality is they're still in pretty good shape. And again, they host Edmonton tomorrow night. That should be an interesting one, because it does feel like the Oilers are trending in the right direction right now too. So even without Matthews, I think that's going to be a highly watchable, pretty competitive game. David Perron, who again I reported earlier in the week on how he had been out. He'd been with his wife who was dealing with a difficult pregnancy. She's had the baby, and now he's trending towards a return. He was taking regular line rushes at practice today, so odds are he's probably in the lineup for their game tomorrow in Carolina. That would be my guess. But all of my thoughts, of course, with Perron and his family is, the baby. The last that I had seen, there were still health concerns there with the baby after having been born. So all my thoughts with Perron and his family at this point in time. Freddie Anderson. In talking about Freddie Anderson, Rod Brindamore says he's going to be out a lot longer than expected. And he's listed as week to week, so I guess maybe they'll update that to month by month. or a month to month. And Freddie Anderson's a goaltender that we know he gets injured a lot. So I did the goalie power rankings earlier in the week, and I left Anderson out because A, he's only played 4 games. It's the same reason that I left Quick off. He hasn't played enough games. And B, I knew he's dealing with an injury. We don't know when he's coming back, and it just feels like now it's indefinite. Brendan Moore's way of phrasing that, it's going to be indefinite at this point, right? Just saying it's going to be a lot longer than expected. Kochetkov is also seen as doubtful for tomorrow's game against the Sens, so Spencer Martin probably gets the start in that game. It's not seen as a long-term thing for Kochetkov, probably a daily thing, something to keep an eye on. And the hope is that Seth Jarvis will return to practice next week. So Jarvis has been out for the last few games, and that's going to affect Carolina too. So we'll see what happens minus Jarvis over this next little while. And tomorrow night they're at home against Ottawa, as I previously mentioned. And I mean, that's a winnable game, but again, without Jarvis, and maybe Perron comes back for Ottawa. We'll see how that affects things. Philip Hedl collided with Keandre Miller last night in that game against San Jose. I have not seen an update on Hedl as to whether or not he's okay or not. And I don't know whether that's a good sign or a bad sign. I don't know if that's a sign that the Rangers haven't got the results back and they don't know, or maybe he is okay. It didn't look that bad. However, Hedl does have a history of concussions, so that's, I think, part of the reason why people are so concerned coming out of last night's game. But I haven't seen anything to state on how long Hedl might be out or if he's going to miss their next game on the schedule. Dakota Joshua returned last night for the Canucks. It did not fuel what I thought that it would. I really thought, Joshua's back in the lineup. Lekaramakis looked good. This is a good sign, and it didn't. So now they're 2-3-3 at home after the loss last night against the Islanders. This is why when they came home for a homestand, I was concerned because they've been much better on the road, where they're 6-1 than they've been at home. So they go up that power rankings board every time they're on the road, and they drop back down every time they're at home. That's a troubling sign. So Vancouver needs to get their home game in order. The one thing that always keeps getting in the back of my mind too is, and they just jacked up the ticket prices too. I've been feeling bad for fans who are, paying a prime amount of money to watch a game in November that, they're not getting the return on it. But you guys can let me know your thoughts on that matter. So again, they're 2-3-3. Now they've got upcoming games against Chicago and Nashville, teams that are near or at the bottom of the standings in the West. Winnable games, yes. Are they going to win them? Who knows? Sidney Crosby is 2 goals away from 600. The team is in Columbus tonight, so it's possible he gets to that 600th goal. And if not, they host the San Jose Sharks tomorrow. So over this next couple of games, we might see Crosby get to 600 goals. And Nieto is set to make his season debut. He's been out of hockey for a while. For about a year, he's been injured. So he's anxious to get back on the ice and play and play an NHL game. He was happy to play at the AHL level and show he's good to go and he's recovered. So be nice to see Nieto back in the lineup for Pittsburgh, how their lines shake down. And again, for Pittsburgh, a team that's off to a rough start at 6-9-3. They need a couple of wins. Columbus and San Jose, those are winnable games. We'll see if they do, and if Crosby ends up getting that 600th goal in either of those games. Nichushkin's been activated, as expected, because it is November 15th. That was the expectation. So he'll be good to go, and they're at home tonight against Washington, so that makes that game a little more interesting, although I was interested in it anyways. And having Nichushkin back in the lineup and seeing what Colorado is going to look like. Keep in mind that in their last game against LA, they didn't allow a shot in the second period, which is a really good way to protect your goaltending when it's looked kind of shaky at points. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see how tonight's game is affected. Remember, with Nichushkin, he's very good at both ends of the ice. Erik Johnson, in the event that he plays tomorrow's game and with Tortorella, you never know. Might make him a healthy scratch. But in the event he plays, he will play his 1,000th game. And tomorrow they're against the Sabres, so my guess is that Johnson ends up in the lineup there. And good on Erik Johnson for reaching 1,000 games. It has taken a while, but he gets there, and so kudos to him for reaching that milestone. An interesting note that I wanted to pass along with tonight's Columbus game, if you have tickets for tonight's game, and if you can prove you have a ticket, as soon as the doors open, you can sign up to get a tattoo, and it's free. It's free of charge. There are 5 designs that are available. The signups will be occurring as soon as the doors open tonight, and the tattoos will be granted in section 108 on the main concourse. So they've got tattoo artists who've come in. This is not unlimited. This is first come, first serve, and the sign up list does have a limit. And then, yeah, you can get a tattoo, any of the 5 designs they have. I do not have any tattoos myself personally. I've never found anything that I want permanently attached to my body. But for people who have, hey, it's fun. And if you want one and you're going to go to the Columbus game, there you go. They even had a little video there on social media of, some of the tattoo artists who are going to be there. So, yeah, it definitely looks like that could be an interesting way to generate maybe some ticket sales where people are like, hey, I could use a Columbus Blue Jackets tattoo. I could get a couple of tickets to the game. The LA Kings getting into some lineup news here. Mo Verari and Portillo have been recalled, and in a corresponding move, Darcy Kemper and Caleb Jones have been placed on IR. Kemper, you could see in that last game, something just wasn't quite right. He had definitely tweaked something, and so he pulled himself out of that game. And now Portillo comes up. We'll see if he gets a start or if it's Riddick. Tomorrow night, the LA Kings hosting Detroit, so we'll see if it's Riddick's game. I think it'll probably be Riddick, but maybe you give Portillo a look. We'll see what the Kings do. Tampa Bay, so Vasilevsky reaches 300 wins, and I've already seen people asking, when does Vasilevsky get a video? He will get a video. Absolutely will get a video. He reaches that 300th win in his 490th career game. That breaks Jacques Plante's record of 528. I'm as surprised as anybody that it's not Marty Brodeur that has the record, actually. When I saw he was breaking the record, I was like, right, he's breaking Brodeur's record. But I do want to do a video on Vasilevsky. Look for that either today or tomorrow. And he is second in wins in the regular season since coming into the NHL in 2014-2015, only behind Sergei Bobrovsky, who has 309 wins over that same time period. So, yeah, Vasilevsky on a record pace. And one thing I want to look at is, okay, so we know who's at the top of the all-time wins list. It's not bloody likely anybody's ever going to catch that record, but it might be kind of fun to look and see what kind of pace you'd have to continue. And obviously, Tampa Bay would have to remain a pretty darn good team. One advantage Brodeur had was he played 70 games in an era where, yeah, you'd play goaltenders in 70-plus games. We don't see that anymore. And so that's one thing that I think works against Vasilevsky. We've already seen some injury stuff with Vasilevsky that Brodeur was fortunate not to go through. Often in his career, he was usually healthy, so that's one thing to keep in mind as well. The most recent goaltender that I looked at and thought, he might have a shot at threatening that wins record at some point was Braden Holtby. And as soon as I thought it to myself, everything went south for him. So I'd like to apologize to Braden Holtby because I kind of felt like I jinxed him just by even thinking about it. Because that's how that works, right? Anyways, there you go. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe in the event you may not have done so already. Thank you guys so much for all your support, as always. I will talk to you again soon.